Hi, Jo Doyle here. We're outside of Asheville Brewing Supply. We're hoping to catch some homebrewers getting their supplies for the weekend. Hey there, do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you control your fermentation temperature?
Yeah, I've had like a converted fridge, which broke on me. In Florida, it's more difficult, which is where I moved from a few years ago, because you're usually not keeping your house in the 60s in Florida. Your house is 75 degrees, which is not an ideal fermentation temperature. But here, I found that the old swamp cooler method, which is basically like a big plastic tote that you fill with water up to the level of your beer in the fermenter, then wrap a towel around it. You can keep it really for any ale temperatures, low to upper 60s, pretty easily just by putting a few ice bottles in a day. So that's what I've been doing, and the cheapest way to do it. So I'll probably get a fridge at some point for it, but I absolutely control my fermentation temperatures for all the beers I make.
Do you control the temperature of your fermentation?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
So my lagers are in an upright chest freezer, so I've got a temperature controller in that goes into a thermal well within one of the carboys that are in there. And then my ales are in a larger, call it a cabinet or whatever that I built, that is all insulated and all, and there's a little space heater in there as well as an air conditioning unit. And depending on whether I need to cool it or warm it up, I got a controller that will do either of those.
I have a old kegerator that I put my carboys into, and then a thermal well hooked up to a temperature controller to make it stay within the 60 to 70 degree range that we prefer.
Let me ask you, do you make a starter?
I do, religiously.
And why?
Well, I guess it could be a homily, but I always felt that the more yeast, the better to a degree. The only beer that's an exception is when I do my Belgians, because I found that if I stress it with a little less yeast, so I don't typically do a starter for that.
Do you make a starter?
If I have time, I'll do it. I would rather make a starter. But however, if I don't have the time, I'll just buy 2 packs of the White Labs and dump both of those. I do a 5-gallon batch, so just to be safe.
Do you ever play around with mixed culture fermentations, different microorganisms in your brewing?
My wife is a big sour fan, but I don't know enough about sours to not foul up my system. So I've been doing a lot of people will add Brett, after they'll do an initial yeast run. That spooks me a little bit. But I almost always use different yeast, per a 10-gallon batch. I'll do one with the 5 gallons and the other with the other 5. And on occasion, I'll rework some of my own, and I might add that to one if I feel like it's just kind of not going, well enough.
Yeah.
But in general, I just go with one. I'm a simple guy,
Yeah. Have you ever made like a mixed culture or mixed fermentation beer before using multiple organisms?
Yep, got one going right now in a barrel actually.
So tell me about that one.
That one was actually a brown that I can't remember exactly why it got like this, but there was some flaws with it, and I believe there's some diacetyl in it and stuff like that, and I can't remember quite why, but I also remember reading that Brettanomyces loves that as a precursor. So I put it in a barrel that we already had. We'd been using it for wine for a little bit, and it was time to kind of move that barrel on into a mixed culture fermenter. And added some lactobacillus and some pediococcus and some Brettanomyces.
Okay.
We're doing all 3. And I'm planning on trying to thief that very soon and see what that tastes like. It's been in the barrel, I think about 11 months now. I was going for about a year, see what it did.
What would be like a piece of advice that you would give to somebody before they've ever even brewed their first batch of beer? They're thinking about becoming a home brewer. What would you tell them?
One of the approaches that I take with new beginning people who haven't done it before and they've been timid and all, and I kind of break it really simple. I was like, if you can go to the grocery store and buy a chocolate cake mix and make a decent chocolate cake, you can make a decent homebrew. Don't take yourself serious and have fun with it. Just have fun with the process. It's fun. Don't give up halfway through, think you maybe ruined it or something. Do the whole process, bottle it, let it carbonate, and then let the taste at the end decide where you were or where you weren't with it. And then you learn from there, You just don't learn to ride a bike in a day typically. It takes time to do these things, but it can be done if you can just follow basic steps.